Hello, guys. We're reading John 9 today. Let's begin. And as Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me, while it is day. The night cometh, when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. By the way, uh, Jesus saying this, he's not saying that the man never sinned. He's just saying, in response to their question, that his blindness was not the cause of his sin. This is a very common thing you see with like charismatics and stuff, where they connect everything to like demons and sin and whatever. All the problems in your life. If you just get rid of your sin and get rid of the demons, then you'll be free. That's not what Jesus is saying. And he's literally rebuking that kind of mindset right here. Let's continue. When he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground, and made clay of the spittle. And he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay, and said unto him, Go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation, sent. He went his way therefore, and washed, and came seeing. The neighbors therefore, and they which before had seen him that he was blind, said, Is this not he that sat and begged? Excuse me. Some said, This is he. Others said, He is like him. But he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, the blind man, How were thine eyes opened? He answered and said, A man that is called Jesus made clay, and anointed mine eyes, and said unto me, Go to the pool of Siloam, and wash. And I went and washed, and I received sight. Then said they unto him, Where is he? He said, I know not. They brought to the Pharisees him that aforetime was blind. And it was the Sabbath day, when Jesus made the clay, and opened his eyes. Then again the Pharisees also asked him, the blind man, how he had received his sight. He said unto them, He put clay upon mine eyes, and I washed, and do see. Therefore said some of the Pharisees, This man is not of God, because he keepeth not the Sabbath day. Oh boy. Others said, How can a man that is a sinner do such miracles? And there was division among them. They say unto the blind man again, What sayest thou of him, that he hath opened thine eyes? He said, He is a prophet. But the Jews did not believe concerning him, that he had been blind, and received his sight, until they called the parents of him that had received his sight. And they asked them, saying, Is this your son, who ye say was born blind? How then doth he now see? His parents answered them and said, We know that this is our son, and that he was born blind. But by what means he now seeth, we know not. Or who hath opened his eyes, we know not. He is of age. Ask him, the blind man, and he shall speak for himself. These words spake his parents, because they feared the Jews. For the Jews had agreed already that if any man did confess that he was the Christ, he should be put out of the synagogue. This kind of goes back into the woman at the well a little bit. But there's a deeper meaning, of course, to what Jesus was saying to her. With the whole, like that giant curtain in the temple being torn in half at his crucifixion. Therefore said his parents, He is of age, ask him. Then again called they the man that was blind, and said unto him, Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner. He answered and said, Whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that whereas I was blind, now I see. Then said they to him again, What did he to thee, or what did he do to you? How opened he thine eyes? He answered them, I have told you already, and ye did not hear. Wherefore would ye hear it again? Will ye also be his disciples? Then they reviled him, and said, Thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. This is a very common theme you'll start to see with the Jews and in the scriptures. They tout the law, right? They claim to be married to Moses, right? But they don't even do the commandments which Moses wrote. And at the same time, they reject God, who is the one that Christ is, right? And we, as Christians, are married to Christ. You can either be married to Moses or to Christ. You can't be married to both, because that would be fornication or adultery, a spiritual adultery. Let's continue. We know that God spake unto Moses. As for this fellow, we know not from whence he is. The man answered and said unto them, Why herein is a marvelous thing, that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he hath opened mine eyes. Now we know that God heareth not sinners. But if any man be a worshipper of God, and doeth his will, him he heareth. Since the world began, was it not heard that any man opened the eyes of one that was born blind? If this man were not of God, he could do nothing. In other words, the blind man is proclaiming to them that he is a believer, that he believes that Jesus is the Christ. They answered and said unto him, Thou wast altogether born in sins, and dost thou teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And when he had found him, the blind man, he said unto him, Dost thou believe on the Son of God? He answered and said, Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee. And he said, Lord, I believe, and he worshipped him. By the way, this is also something you'll see. A lot of people say that, particularly like Muslims and Jews, right? Well, Jews don't even believe he was a prophet. But Muslims will say, oh, he's just a prophet. And yet Jesus received worship. Prophets do not receive worship. And if they do receive it, and they accept the worship, they're a false prophet. So, either Jesus is the Christ, God in the flesh, which is who Christ is, by the way. You learn this in the Old Testament. Or Jesus is a false prophet, and literally the devil. He didn't really give anybody any options, right? There's only two. He is either the Christ, or he is not. Which do you believe? Let's continue. And Jesus said, For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see might not see, and that they which see might be made blind. And some of the and by the way, this is talking about a spiritual blindness, not a, because it's talking about how they always judge by the flesh and by appearances and stuff. So yeah. Anyways, let's continue. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, Are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see, therefore your sin remaineth.